Okay, hello there. Pac-Man fever. Woo. All right, welcome to the Secrets of Google Pac-Man.
Thank you for coming.
I am Ryan Germick. I am the creative lead of the Google Doodle team. There I am, eating a donut.
And I'm Marcin Wichary. I'm a user experience designer / developer on the Chrome team. And let's see, this is actually my cubicle, well, above my cubicle, circa 2006, 2007. And I love all video games. And I had all of this Atari memorabilia, thank you, on top of my cubicle. And that's actually how Ryan and I met.
That's true. I was sitting around the corner, and I saw these things hanging up, and I just think the artwork is really cool, as an artist myself. And I approached this guy, and we struck up a friendship based on our mutual love for vintage games.
Yeah, and this is actually the project, the first big project that we worked on together was the Google Pac-Man doodle pretty much a year ago. And in a way, it came to define us.
That's true. So yeah, it was basically the first opportunity we had to sort of bring to fruition the intersection between art and technology and find a way to work together.
Yeah, these are actual Google suggestions for our names as of like 8 months ago.
Before Google Instant, so no longer does this glory exist. So my regular job at Google is to lead the team that creates the Google Doodles. So those are the logos that we make on the home page around the world to surprise and delight our users. So we would take something like the idea for celebrating Sesame Street, which we actually did globally for a whole week in 2009, and then we'd turn that idea into a real thing like this photo.
Yeah. And I kind of do the same thing. I try to delight users, try to create experiences that are interesting, memorable, and beautiful. But my kind of tools of trade are essentially HTML5, right? And that's what I do to create those experiences. And as a matter of fact, this whole presentation is an HTML5 website. It doesn't look like one because these days it doesn't have to. I try to pay tribute to the 80s since we're talking about Pac-Man. There's a couple of things that we did here. One is you might notice there's this interlace, little flickering, little kind of banding going on.
Yeah, the projector is not broken. We told the AV guys we'd let you know.
This is all kind of our tribute. And this is a little bit like, this is as easy as putting a couple of gradients together and animating them these days, which is pretty amazing to me, like that we can do all sorts of things using HTML5 and CSS3. So that's one thing. There was a software tribute. And we also have a hardware tribute to the 1980s. Some of you might have noticed, I love my Power Glove. It's so bad.
We drove to a trailer park in San Jose to buy it off of Craigslist, so I appreciate the applause.
$200, I kid you not.
Yeah.
But,
and the guy said he'd get us anything we need. So.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. So we have this HTML5 website running the presentation, right? It's a regular page. As a matter of fact, like I can just select stuff or whatever, right? I also have a regular iPod Touch here running another HTML5 site. Just out of the box. They talk to each other using a server that's on this computer with Node.js. So it's all JavaScript, all open web, right? It's pretty amazing. And what I can do here, I can advance to the next slide, for example, right? And this slide is the same slide as you saw, but I can now use my touch. And it's, the Wi-Fi is a little bit, but, it's pretty much real time, right? It's kind of amazing. And the other thing I wanted to show you, this is a power glove, right? So it doesn't really work on infrared because we didn't hook it up. It's a glorified case. But this guy has an accelerometer. So what I can do is I can kind of calibrate it right here and just send this accelerometer data from the Power Glove to the server. Yeah, the Wi-Fi is you can kind of actually see how they look. It doesn't work so great because Wi-Fi is kind of terrible, but you can actually see. Right.
That's me with, I grew my beard just so the Muppets felt like I was one of them.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about being able to do stuff like that using just HTML5, right? It's all open web, open standards, and you can create things that have, not been possible before. And that's kind of what we wanted to talk to you about today.
Yeah, we think the homepage is a great place for us to be exploring with these kind of things. And I don't see any reason why delighting and surprising our users has to be just like static imagery. Yeah. So, to honor Pac-Man as a classic game itself, we decided to turn this talk less into a lecture and more into something participatory. And the first thing you need to know is it's now a game show. And we're going to be dividing the room into 2 teams. Everybody on this side, on my right, your left, is going to be Team Pac-Man. Everybody on Marcin's side, my left, your right, is going to be Team Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah. All right,
Right.
so you can switch right now if you need to.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll close our eyes, count to 10. And you will notice under your seat is a flotation device. I'm just kidding. No, I feel like an airline hostess. But you also see there's a score on top. So for being so lovely, I'm going to give Miss Pac-Man 50 points. And sorry, so for griping, I'm going to give Mr. Pac-Man just 30 points. Great.
Ryan knows Octal.
OK, 24. OK, great.
It's all JavaScript.
Yeah. And the other thing we can do, Wi-Fi is a little bit messy here, but if you have 3G or Wi-Fi, give it a try. Point your web-enabled device to io-pacman-appspot.com, and you'll actually be doing all your voting and question selection from your touch device.
Let's see if that works. If it doesn't, we're just going to shout the answer, so have a team captain or something like this.
So give it a try, and we'll see how it goes. And yeah, like Marcin said, we'll have a backup plan if it doesn't work.
And choose your team as you're going to log in. If it shows up, you should be able to choose your team. Again, Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. Doesn't work?
3G was better than Wi-Fi a minute ago. If you guys have 3G, give it a try. Anybody able to see the site? Holler. OK, we got some people, people.
Yeah.
3G's OK.
What should we? Should we do the?
Well, let's have our first vote. Everybody, if you want to try it with 3G, holler, raise your hands. If not, we got a team captain solution. All right. So a little lukewarm. We feel, I think, as a philosophical part of what we do is if we don't break something, we're probably not trying hard enough. So let's go with captains. We'll take it a little away from Jeopardy, a little more towards Price is Right. And if I could have a volunteer for Mr. Pac-Man team, anybody? Sweet. All right. In the back, wonderful. If you want to come up to the microphone, you are going to be the answer and question wrangler for your team.
And we need one more for
Miss Pac-Man. All right, lovely lady, please come to the microphone. And we thank you for that. And to make it sweeten the pot a little bit, we got hats for you. Stunts.
Thank you. All right. Okay. So how that's gonna work is we have 5 categories: history of Pac-Man and Doodles, Pac-Man the game, the technology, programming the Pac-Man doodle, and user feedback. And we alternate. So team, ladies first. So team Miss Pac-Man is gonna start. Choose the category, choose the score. There's gonna be an answer, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about it.
All right. So team Miss Pac-Man, just holler out. What are you going for? Or somebody voted 200.
Yeah. So
we're doing a hybrid approach.
Yeah.
Oh, it's working.
It's kind
of. Right.
It should look much better though. There's like 5, 6, 7 votes on the screen right now.
Okay. It looks like pencils down. Conservative approach. History of Pac-Man and Doodles for 200 is our question.
Okay, so we have Team Miss Pac-Man. Your question is, what was Miss Pac-Man's original name? And there are 4 answers. Was it Pac-Woman? Was it Pac-Lady? Was it Chicha-chan? Or was it Crazy Otto? So, are we doing voting? Are we doing shouting? Are we doing team captain?
We've got a captain. We've got a little bit of both. Captain, what we're going to do is a hybrid approach. Captain, you're going to choose with your discretion what you think your team is really going for.
All right.
There's a lot of votes,
It's kind of working, okay.
Well, since no one's shouting out and everyone's voting online, let's go with number 4.
Okay, Crazy Otto, and?
That is correct. It's Crazy Otto. So my team needs some points, I guess. All right, and let me tell you the story. This is actually kind of a cool story. So Pac-Man came out, a while back, and if you put a game in an arcade for a while, it's people are gonna figure it out and gonna play longer for 1 quarter, and the arcade owners kind of hated it. So they wanted a sequel to Pac-Man. And they asked Namco, who's the Japanese manufacturer of Pac-Man, hey, can we have a sequel? And they're like, yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it. But there was this other American company that created their own kind of bootleg version of Pac-Man called Crazy Otto, which looked a little bit like this. And Midway, the American distributor of the original Pac-Man, found out about it, and they gave them the ultimatum. Either we're going to buy you and start selling Crazy Otto legally, or we're going to sue you. So of course, they chose, buy us. And they get this thing. They changed Crazy Otto to Miss Pac-Man, so it looks like a lady. There's a little bit of, thing going on. And, it actually was the most popular Pac-Man game in the history of Pac-Man franchise. And when Namco, the original Japanese manufacturer, found out about it, they got kind of angry because they said, you can't be doing these things without our permission. And Midway is like, yeah, we can. That's what our contract says. And they got into this long, protracted legal battle about what they can and cannot do. The funny thing is that, this is the advertisement for Miss Pac-Man. So obviously the graphics was kind of terrible, but they more than made up for it with advertisements.
I'm not sure who they're trying to appeal to with this advertisement.
Femme fatale of the game world. And of course, they also had advertisements for industry. Don't copy Pac-Man, because we own it, even though that's just what they did themselves. So it was kind of hilarious. We didn't know much about it when we worked on our Pac-Man doodle. And I wanted to put Miss Pac-Man in because it's such an interesting story. So what we did was we proposed that if you press insert coin twice, you actually get into this mode where you can play with Miss Pac-Man and Pac-Man on one screen, which is actually the first time it happened in the history. And it was a lot of fun. And when we talked about this to Namco, they were like, oh, okay, it's a bit tricky, the legal thing. But they eventually allowed us to do it, and we were very happy. And kind of to bookend, so the way I wanted to do it was, I wanted to think about what would Namco do in 1980 if we wanted to do a multiplayer mode, right? I didn't want to kind of throw all sorts of artificial intelligence that wasn't possible to do in 1980. So it was incredibly simple. This is the only addition to the AI for multiplayer. If a ghost exits the pen, it just randomly chooses whether it should target Miss Pac-Man or Pac-Man, which I thought is exactly what they would have done in 1980. So it's kind of like historical recreation. And the last thing, somebody actually created a Grease Monkey extension to change our Pac-Man into Miss Pac-Man, which I thought was very ironic, given that the whole story repeated itself from 30 years ago when somebody, when this company did this little daughter board on top of the original PCB. So that's the story of Miss Pac-Man. It's a little bit more, but let's try to get to other questions.
All right, Team Pac-Man, it's your turn to vote for a question. Yell it out, vote it up.
Let's see some fingers.
I like this aggression here. 1600 looks pretty good to me.
Okay, we're going to go for 1600 with the history of Pac-Man and Doodles.
There you have it. All right, guys, so how many cartridges of Pac-Man for the Atari 26 video game console did Atari eventually bury in a New Mexico landfill?
We will tell you the story in a second, but first tell us, what do you think?
5,000? 50,000? 500,000? And 5 million, and I guess it's safe to say no one's searching for this since the Wi-Fi doesn't really work.
Yeah, no cheating.
Does everybody like number 2?
Okay.
All right, 50,000.
We'll go with number 2.
Number 2,
15.
and I'm somewhat disappointed.
No, the answer is actually the last answer, 5 million. And some of you know the story, right? It was kind of interesting. So there was this movie that came out in 1982 called E.T., huge hit, right? And Atari had this hot console called 2600 or VCS originally, and they wanted to have a game based on the movie because everybody loved the movie, so everybody's going to buy the game. They bought the rights, they were very happy, and this is the game that they came up with. Otherwise known as the worst video game in the history. It has nothing to do, very little to do with the movie, terrible gameplay. You could finish the whole thing in 2 hours, 2 minutes, I'm sorry. And, it's awful, right? So we had E.T., the video game, and then there was Pac-Man. And Atari, exactly the same way of thinking. Everybody loves Pac-Man in the arcades. They would love it even more if they could play it at home. So they bought the rights, they put together a conversion. This is the box, as always, looks very, very nice. And they had an advertisement that looked something like this.
Notice how few frames of the advertisement actually show the game.
As soon as I eat that power block, you guys are finished. Drop Atari Pac-Man into your Atari video computer system, and you're playing the hottest game since Space Invaders, Atari Pac-Man.
That's enough. Okay, no, that's enough.
Hate to eat and run.
Pac-Man by Atari.
By Atari, right? Awesome. This is the game.
I think you might get Pac-Man fever from the sort of frantic movements of the ghost.
This has absolutely zero to do with the original Pac-Man. It's terrible. Everything's wrong here. The board is different. Pac-Man doesn't even move right. The ghosts are flickering. The sounds are terrible. No cutscenes, nothing.
But you know what? It makes me think maybe we should do a doodle for the anniversary of Atari Pac-Man.
Yeah. Both of these games were huge flops. They produced millions of them, and nobody bought them, or people who bought them returned them. And Atari was essentially trapped with millions of cartridges that they couldn't sell because it was after the Christmas season, and nobody cared about those games anyway. It was the beginning of the video game crash of 1984, for those of you who remember it. Atari had to actually literally bury them in the desert to get some sort of a tax-exempt refund situation. I don't know exactly. Just, but essentially, everything went nosedive after that. Two games essentially responsible for almost killing video games. And everybody thought video games was just another fad, like hula hoop or whatever. And it looked like it, except there was this little company called Nintendo that released NES in 1985, but that's a whole different story. Essentially, so Pac-Man contributed to both the kind of the cultural recognition of video games in 1980 and the video game crash of 1984, which we think is kind of an interesting story. All right. So this was the...
Team S Pac-Man is up.
Yeah, Team S Pac-Man. What do you want to talk about?
Mr. Mrs. Pac-Man Captain, what is your name, by the way? We didn't get your name.
Chad Killingsworth.
Thanks, Chet.
Chad.
Chad, thanks, Chad.
Crazy Chad. Oh,
Crazy
sorry.
Chad. Chad Chacham.
Other Googlers have called me such too.
All right.
Let's go with 1600 for Pac-Man the game.
All right. Big spender.
All right. This is a cool question. Okay. On one occasion, one ghost can run away from Pac-Man while not frightened. So you can eat the Energizer and run away. But on one occasion, one ghost, even in regular gameplay, runs away from Pac-Man. Which ghost is it? Is it Blinky? Oh, it's not going to be so easy. It's 1600. Or is it Inky? Or is it Plinky? Or is it Clyde? So vote now if Wi-Fi allows you to. And we're going to talk about it in just a second. People know what they're talking about here.
I think that table talk is going to reduce the number of points.
Okay, who has Google search open? It's just, we know. No, I'm joking.
We'll go with Clyde, number 4.
All right. Clyde is correct, but I heard some table talk. I'm going to ding you guys. 12. I'm going to ding you 400 points for that. I don't think you really deserve. Sorry.
All right.
Sorry, Chad.
Here's what's great about Pac-Man. In an era where every other game was shooting and driving and nobody really cared anything, they tried to tell the story. They had 4 ghosts. Each of them had a name. Each of them had a personality as well.
I think one thing that resonated with us from the Google Doodle standpoint is that it was an opportunity for like an emotional connection. You feel a little less invested in an android you're blowing up than you do in a ghost with a name and a personality.
Yeah. So they actually had this, this cutscene with the names and everything. But of course, this is 1980. How do you represent ghosts' personalities using, 5 lines of machine code that you have available, right? Not very much memory, nothing really crazy. Here's how. Let me actually show you this in practice. It's kind of hard to play with Power Glove, ironically. But
it was also hard to play with the Power Glove when it was working properly.
So at any given moment, the only thing a ghost has to do is to reach a specific tile. So let me actually show you. Right now, as you can see, 2 of the ghosts are out, and they're trying to reach a tile that doesn't exist. It's a tile outside of the screen, so we're going to be just kind of circling in the corner. The idea being that, you just started the game, we'll give you some slack, right? As you familiarize yourself with the controls. I slowed it down so I can actually play and talk at the same time. Secret, not a very good Pac-Man player. All right.
That's the only secret I think you're actually going to hear.
Yeah,
today.
all right. But after a while, something else happens. Each ghost now has a different tile to target. So you see, Blinky is trying to target the tile I'm currently at, right? Let me slow it down, the red one, right? Pinky is trying to target a tile in front of me, except if I go up, there's a bug, and it targets a tile that's up. But otherwise, it's 4 tiles in front of me. The other guy, Inky, is just trying to kind of extrapolate between those two guys. And Clyde, let's try if we can get him out of the pen. This is kind of hard, by the way. Oh, no, oh, no, oh. Can I get some points for it? No. So let's see. So anyway, what happens is it otherwise behaves like Blinky, but once I get close to Clyde, it actually runs away to...
Do you need a pinch hitter?
Do you want to play?
Sure.
Anyway, it actually runs away from me to its corner, which is kind of, makes him a little bit unpredictable. But here's the great story for me personally. So I started implementing the game, and one day I'm playing it, and accidentally I converted my whole gameplay from a floating point to integer to make it a little bit faster. But I forgot to multiply something by 8 in one place. And the way I found out about it was not by looking at the code. And I don't do unit testing because I'm a terrible programmer. I did it because the ghosts felt funny when I played it. And I recognized that they're doing something weird. And I added this mode that I could actually see what they're doing as debugging help from me. And that's how I found out, oh, OK, they're doing something funny. I forgot about times 8. I added it.
Getting pretty hot over here.
Worked.
Do you want to see it? Oh. But there it is. There it is.
But
close to Clyde.
Yeah. So the great thing about it is that speaks volumes about the actual, it actually worked, right? You could actually feel the differences in personalities of the ghost. And, they had literally very little. So these are the algorithms I put together, essentially recreated from scratch in JavaScript. We didn't do any sort of emulation or anything. They're very simple, right? Blinky is just like targeting the tile. The other guy is a little bit more complicated. Inky is just kind of trying to offset these two guys. And Clyde is a little bit more complicated. But really, those are incredibly simple things, right? Nothing fancy, no machine learning, no AI. And it worked. And I think this is brilliant. And I think this talks about how amazing Pac-Man was, that it has so much nuance and so much details that I wasn't even aware of when I started on this project.
All right, Team Pac-Man and Pac-Man Captain, what was your name?
Morgan.
Morgan.
Crazy
Morgan in chat.
No, sorry.
OK. Let's vote on a question. OK. Decisively want to get on the board with technology for 1600. Are we in accord there, Morgan?
Sure, we'll do that.
Thank you.
I mean, we can only go up.
Yeah.
I believe in you.
All right, so we have this one question, which is how many different graphic elements were used for Pac-Man Doodle? Might be a tricky question. It's 1600. Nobody really knows. Is it 1? Is it 56? Is it 89? Or is it 123?
What do you got, Morgan?
Vote now, and let's see what happens.
We're going to go with 1.
OK.
Let's
Resoundingly
see what I mean after you answer.
Morgan has spoken. That is correct.
That is kind of correct.
We could use the points. We could use
We
the
could
points.
use some points.
I will give you 15. Since you got it right, I'll give you 1,599 for the one.
All right.
Seems fair to me. Seems fair to me. I have no bias.
I can add points, so it seems a little bit unfair. The actual answer is 123 elements in one sprite. You had it right, so that's why you get points, because somebody was thinking, and probably more of you, right? So you know how sprites work, right? This is one big image, and we just cut the respective slice out of it because, first of all, it saves us bandwidth, right? We don't have to download 123 images. We just download one, and it's much faster. And also, once we have one, we have all of them. So you don't have the stupid flickering when you hover over things. Sometimes you see it on the websites. So we did that. We also do this on Google, right? This is kind of where it started for us, probably. This is a sprite from google.com, and we do it everywhere else. Let me actually show you how it works, because it's kind of fun to see, to visualize this. So, again, let me play a game really badly. Let me kind of slow it down. And, if you take away the sprites, it's actually just div elements running around. It looks kind of like Tron. It's actually kind of cool to play. Let's focus on Pac-Man, and this is what Pac-Man does. But really, if you just get rid of CSS overflow hidden, that's what's happening, right? It's just one sprite, and the same with, every ghost has two kind of movements, so they're, tails wiggle, et cetera, et cetera. This other guy, we can also just show all of them if we want, which is, let's try to get killed, because that actually looks kind of cool. I always get a kick out of it. Wait. So, yeah, that's the story. And this is actually a technique that we used somewhere else. Can you talk about this doodle a little bit?
Sure. So, we try to honor different holidays, different notable birthdays, and sometimes there's conflicts. And Rube Goldberg was one such conflict where there's no way we can't honor Rube Goldberg. He's a cartoonist, he was an inventor, he was hilarious, and he's also born in San Francisco, and his birthday happens to be on the 4th of July. So we thought, hey, instead of letting this one go, maybe we can combine the two, and we created what we now call a tandem doodle. So in Flash, I animated this doodle to kind of show what a Rube Goldberg device that was excessively patriotic might look like. But we didn't want to use Flash on the homepage because it wouldn't work on iPads. It would potentially could be security issues, and we just try to find the technology that's right for the occasion. And at this point, we thought we could try a little harder.
Yeah. So Flash is out for obvious reasons. Even though we love it for working on some of the animations.
And we used it in Pac-Man actually. The sound is done.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. Just another question like this.
Hopefully
later.
Pac-Man.
But there's the
memory retention question.
I hope it's my team. We can't do animated GIFs because they look kind of weird and we're not really in control. We don't know if it's loaded or not. We could load each frame individually, but that's a lot of bandwidth. Right? So what I did, I wrote this little program. Again, I actually wrote it in Canvas and JavaScript. It analyzes the differences between each frames and just try to find as small as possible rectangle to cover the differences. So you see, it created this sprite just for this animation. Right?
So now you're starting to see why I talk to Marcin when we have a technical challenge on the doodle. And I think it's worth mentioning you did this on a bus in 45 minutes.
That's almost exactly not true, but no. So now that you kind of have this sprite in mind, this is how it looks, right? So we overlay a new div with every frame with just the proper sprite. And if you can't visualize it this way, it may be easier to do it this way. And this part. This part is 3 extra lines.
I'm going to give Pac-Man team 20 points just because I was so excited. Their question.
This is 3 or 4 lines extra CSS just for this effect. So that's really, really fun. Again, I get a kick of, and it just compresses into this guy. So I get a kick out of trying these kind of things and the fact that they're possible now. This is the code to just animate this doodle. I call this technique the crushinator. Anybody knows what the reference is?
Nobody knows what the reference is, Marcin.
Futurama, yes, thank you. Can I get some points?
Yeah, sure. In your honor, I'm going to award Pac-Man team 20 points.
All right. We also had this other doodle.
Wow.
Yeah, buckyball. And this is the original prototype in Canvas that Chris Holm did, another person on our team. But Canvas still is not really accessible everywhere. So what we did was essentially just created a sprite with all the possible lines and just write it. Here's a reference from the same show. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? So, all right.
And one more spoiler while I'm spoiling. If you guys, for those of you who don't have your homepage set to google.to, the Tonganese version of our website, the doodle that's going to be live starting 9 p.m. Pacific time in the US uses the crushinator, and it's a more sophisticated animation, but you could say you know how it was done.
So Team is Pac-Man right now. Is the voting working? It looks kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, okay.
So it looks like user feedback for 200 for Team Miss Pac-Man?
No, let's do the right thing.
Okay.
It was very competitive. Okay. Which of those was
you could just score this because this is totally subjective.
But since all of you know me already, we've spent 29 minutes together. Let's try to answer this. These are the actual bug descriptions I wrote for myself. The eyes of the ghost should betray next move. Proper death for Miss Pac-Man. Some people can't change directions.
These sounds like critiques of actual people.
Could stop with mouth open. I'll explain all of them. Ghosts feel funny. You already know what that was. I should travel home even during ghost city. English is a second language, by the way.
JavaScript is your first language?
Yeah, really. Okay. Let's try voting if we can. Yeah, some votes are okay coming through. But I try to think the way I think. Does this help anybody?
This is working. This is good.
Okay, well, it might be the responsibility of team captain.
Yeah, let's go with number 5, Ghosts Feel Funny.
That's not the right answer. Okay, but let me, so the Ghost Feel Funny, you already know what it was. It was actually an interesting bug to fix, but I like this one much more, which was some people cannot change directions.
Yeah.
But I'm going to talk about it in a second. Let me talk about everything else. So in Pac-Man, one of those many little details is that the ghosts kind of change their eyes direction just a moment before they change directions, so you can see where they're going to go for like 100 milliseconds. And of course, we wanted to have that too, because we wanted to pay proper tribute to Pac-Man, right? Proper that, so Miss Pac-Man, when she dies, she does a little bit of a different animation with a different sound effect.
So it's not like a funeral or
Could
something.
stop with mouth open. Pac-Man, when it hits the wall, never stops like this. Profile. It always kind of just like does a little bit or nothing, which is, again, never documented anywhere, but I noticed it and I wanted to add it in. Ghost Feel Funny, you already know. I should travel home, blah, blah, blah. This is when Pac-Man eats a ghost, everything pauses. The whole game pauses for like a couple hundred milliseconds or a second or so. But if another ghost is already on its way home, it's still going. So again, one of those things that I wanted the game to be as true to the original as possible. Some people can't change directions. That was actually the most interesting one, because this is the story. About 1.5 weeks or something ridiculously close to the launch date, some people who are testing the Doodle at work are messaging me saying, hey, sometimes I changed it. I want a Pac-Man to go up and it doesn't go up. Or anyway, sometimes it doesn't register it. One of these guys is right here, Jonathan, another bug reportee. And I'm like, this is not the kind of bug I want to hear about 1.5 weeks before.
Some people can't change directions.
Yeah, it seems pretty serious. So I'm kind of trying to investigate. I'm with Jonathan on a mailing thread. And what happens, what we find out is this. When you play a game for the longest, when you're kind of a good player, what you want to do is you want to tell Pac-Man to change directions much in advance, right? So, for example, I want to go up. I'm going to press up right now. And Pac-Man remembers it. It's going to go up at the first possible moment. It's actually going to cut the corner a little bit, so it saves you a couple of pixels, and the ghosts don't do that. That's pretty great, right? It's one of those little, left, and it goes left. But if you're not a good player, or if you're not used to video games, what you're going to do is you're going to wait and press left here. Okay, that's pretty solid, except sometimes you're going to miss. Sometimes you're going to be 1 pixel too late or 2 pixels too late, and the game is going to be like, well, too late, right? So I'm a usability person. This is a usability problem. It's a pretty simple fix, right? I thought about it a little bit. Well, what I can do is, even if you're 1 or 2 pixels too late, I can implement a check that would, forgive you. Pretend you did it in time and just put you back in the kind of original way, right? I added it. I sent it to people. People were like, yeah, it works great now. Awesome, right? Problem solved. Except now I'm changing Pac-Man, right? Do I want to be the George Lucas of Pac-Man, right? Do I want to start revisiting the old game and making it better?
Does that make me the Jar Jar?
Yeah. The only 2 things we changed about Pac-Man is Ryan created the board because it needed to spell Google, and I wanted to add Miss Pac-Man, but as I already mentioned, I did it I tried to be respectful to the original game, right? So we have a problem. What do? Well, I go and play Pac-Man. We have a Pac-Man game at the campus, and I start playing it. And as I played, I realized somebody's already done the same thing 30 years ago. They implemented exactly the same fix I was thinking of. It's not documented anywhere on the web. I never found a mention of it. But back in the 1980s, when nobody cared about human-computer interaction, somebody was actually thinking about stuff like that and implementing fixes to it. That was amazing. There was this is like an anthropologist or whatever, or archaeologist finding a dinosaur, for me. Because this is intersection of computer history and human-computer interaction, and somebody's already thought about it. So this is the code that I added, right? It's very simple. I skipped some boring details, but it was a simple fix, but it was heartening to see I'm just really recreating what they've already done. Just as a side note, you can read the comment. It's an actual comment from the source. We were playing Pac-Man with Ryan for a while, and I thought the code was rock solid, And at some point, Ryan went through the wall. And
I'm just that good. I think
Yeah.
that's the issue.
I'm like, holy crap, why did that happen? And I had no idea why. So I eventually added a check, not to prevent going through the wall, but to detect if you're going through the wall and then like putting you back, because I had no idea what to do. And hopefully it helped. Nobody reported a bug that went through the wall. But again, sometimes you just have to do what's the only thing possible. All right, Team Pac-Man.
All right, Team Pac-Man. Morgan, what do you say?
I don't know. I'm waiting for 2 seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Guy in the green shirt says 1600.
All
User
right.
feedback for doing that.
Wow, everybody's 1600. Okay.
way to represent. Okay.
This is one of the tweets we got. We got a lot of tweets. We're very happy with a lot of the feedback. This is one of the tweets we got, that Pac-Man in HTML5 works great on Opera on Wii, which was amazing because we never tested in Opera on Wii. Right? There's only so much you can do. But because we use HTML5, it worked everywhere that supported HTML5, except, did we really use HTML5? Well, here's the question for you. What was the only aspect of Pac-Man where we actually used HTML5? All right, so was it audio? Was it visual composition? Was it user interface? Or was it networking? So what do you think? What's the only part of Pac-Man we actually did use HTML5? Everything else was just all solid HTML4.
A lot of talk. Wow. This is a good memory game here.
Okay, we've heard from this side it's 3 or 4. What's this thing? 3? We're going to go with 3, user interface.
That
Okay.
is correct.
That's correct.
All right. Give them some points.
But I'm not proud of what was done. So again, I'll go for $15.99.
All right. This is among the few lines that actually had to do with HTML5. There was the touch, the swiping on any touch devices that we added. And we did test it extensively on those that we had running around, laying around or whatever, but not on Opera on Wii. And it was pretty fun, actually. You could tap to move or you could swipe to move. And then we got, nice feedback like this. Again, we didn't really announce it. People discovered it on their own. And it was part of what we wanted, right? We wanted to just delight the users by adding things that they didn't think were possible.
I mean, I think in general, what gets us excited when we make a Google logo is when somebody has an emotional reaction to it. And one emotional reaction is like desire. So you see Google Pac-Man, you want to play it. When that desire is met, I think we've done a really good job.
Yeah. So here's another thing, for example, that gets me excited about HTML5, and hopefully we're going to be able to incorporate it more and more in all the doodles that we do that are maybe interactive or animated. This is a doodle that
Mike Dutton did. And it's for Namjoon Paik, a Korean video artist.
And I was thinking, what would it, how could we improve it just as a kind of, playing around with HTML5, right? So we can just take the doodles, stop it. We can just, we can zoom it in using CSS3, right? Because now it's kind of easy. And here's a video tag, right? HTML5 video tag. And everybody knows why they love HTML5 video, right? Because it's, it's not as slow as Flash, it's integrated, less battery life, et cetera, right? We have heard it. But what excites me about HTML5 video is that it's now a first-class citizen on the page, right? I can do with it whatever I can do with any other div or any other element lying around. It's not its own little silo that doesn't care about the index or flashes around. So what I can do, I can do a CSS transform to do it something like this, right? It also respects the alpha channel, which is amazing. It didn't used to happen, and now it's here. And I can also just add little CSS3 transformations and transitions to make it just kind of, power off and power up, right? Like old TV. And so this is the demo put together. And now on top of this, you still see all of these effects that the presentation does, right? With the interlace and the flickering and the kind of banding and ghosting and all of this, all works really well. And I think that's pretty amazing. Again, that makes me happy as a designer because I can do interfaces that don't look like, interfaces of the old days. They are really exciting, and they, some of them, pretty nice. Yeah. So.
All right. Team Miss Pac-Man.
Team Miss Pac-Man.
Chad, we need to come back.
What's going on? Okay.
Executive decision?
Let's go with technology for 800.
Sounds fair.
I like how people like readjust their. Okay. Oh, this is a nice one. This is a tricky one. What was the frame rate of the Pac-Man doodle? Was it 30 frames per second? 45? Is this thing on? 45 frames per second? Was it 60? Or was it 90? What do you think?
A little help from your friends on Team Pac-Man? Or was it? We haven't been as traders of shooters, have we?
Interesting.
Might have to make a tough call, Chad.
Yeah. What do you think?
I have pretty adamant users that it's 360.
Okay. It is actually not 3. It's actually every other answer but 3. So,
Wow. Okay. I'm going to give you guys some points because that was amazing odds you played against. I'll give you 3 points for that. I'm representing for number 3.
and this is again just because I'm kind of a lazy programmer. So 90 goes into 45 divided by 2 goes into 30 divided by 3. So we had this procedure that said if you can do 90, just cut it in half or cut it in 3 times or whatever, right? 60 doesn't really fit neatly anywhere, even though it's the standard thing you would think of, except if you're in Europe. But so this is the kind of, and now we have the request WebKit animation frame or whatever, or Moz animation frame. So it's kind of a nicer thing. You don't have to worry too much about stuff like this. But this was the original Pac-Man. And since this is Google homepage, right, we really have to worry about, things not eating too many cycles when people just, open google.com and leave it there, right? And doesn't consume too much battery life. So this is a Jules Verne doodle that we did. When did we do it?
February 7th, 2011.
Yeah, so you remember this guy maybe, you could go up, go down, and if you kind of leave it alone, it's kind of like going back to the surface and it's kind of bobbing on the surface, but all of this kind of consumes energy, right? So we had a couple of things that we changed. For example, if nobody's interacting with the doodle, hovering over it, playing with it, at some point it's just gonna stop, right? So if it's a home page in the background, it's not gonna do anything to your processor. And we even, we care even enough to make sure that if you hover over something, we throttle the hovering. So, it's only as fast as we need it to be, right? So it doesn't fire too often, because some browsers are firing a lot of hover states, when you mouse move around. So we just kind of time out it, and it actually works pretty well. So there's a number of those techniques that we had to develop to make sure that, we don't kill browsers of innocent people, I guess. All right.
Okay, Team Pac-Man, back up. What do you got?
Why is your team winning?
We're going for programming for 800.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Leader has
it's correlation and causation. The guy who's
So which of the following is not a proper way to control Google Pac-Man? And again, proper.
Yeah.
Arrow keys, WASD, clicking, or swiping. Those are your
Yeah. Not
options.
what's the only way you cannot control Pac-Man. Bless you.
There's some fervent debate going on.
We're going with clicking because
Going with clicking and-
everybody likes that answer.
So no?
No. You can actually you can control Pac-Man by clicking.
This is what we
On
call
the
a
playfield.
trick question.
Yeah. It is a trick question because WASD is the one where you can't control Pac-Man. You can only control Miss Pac-Man, right?
But I kind of feel like that was unfair. And you deserve some points.
So that's the thing. But here's the funny thing. So once we start doing all those interactive doodles, we kind of have to worry about people understanding how to interact with them.
Right, because it's not like we as a company try to get people off our search page as quickly as possible. Our strategy is to be useful and not to suck up your time, but to get you to where you're going as quickly as possible. So we don't anticipate people sitting there for a long time trying to click and figure out what's going on. So we try to have our user interfaces on our Google Doodles as intuitive as possible.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, many of the people who come to see the homepage, they don't play video games. They don't use, they're not used to some of the conventions that we might be used to. So, for example, this was the Jules Verne doodle. This is the original sketch that came from illustrator Jennifer Holm. And, originally it was just meant to be an illustration. And then we thought, we could do something more exciting about it since, Jules Verne loved exploration. Maybe we could do something with exploring as well. And this is the first prototype that we had. So it's very simple. And it operates exactly the same way that Pac-Man did. You can use arrow keys to move it around. We actually don't have left, right, it's just up and down. But nobody's going to figure out that that's possible, right? It doesn't look like we wouldn't. With Pac-Man, it's easier because it's Pac-Man, right? You kind of know what it's going to do. So we're going to try something new, right? So we wanted to do this interface that was a little bit more, Jules Verne, if you will. And, try to do this guy where you kind of like rotate it, but it's kind of a weird thing, right? It's kind of like, doesn't feel, it's kind of circular, but it's directional, and it's a little bit confusing, right? So we weren't very happy with that. The next iteration was, we wanted to add this regular joystick to try to make it look a little bit more, again, like it belonged to the era, but otherwise it's just a standard thing. And it was the first time actually we ran usability tests on our doodle. It was just like, grab some Googlers in the corridor or whatever, but we did it. And what we found out, a couple of interesting things. First of all, nobody figures out that you can actually interact with this thing. It looks like a joystick, but otherwise it's not very exciting, right? And the other thing was that people inexplicably tried to click on the dials. We never really found out why, but it's kind of one of those things that you just find in usability, right? Usability won't answer some questions, but at least we'll give you the problems. So what we ended up doing was this guy, right? You can see it evolved quite a bit from the original. And first of all, this looks like a huge lever, right? So I kind of want to mess with it. It has up and down. It's a little bit more pronounced, so you know that this is the thing to do. And check out what happens when I click on those guys. The lever actually lights up. It's kind of like a cheap trick, but gets your attention where it needs to be. Right, and of course you can still do up and down with arrow keys. And what we also added, and it's hard to demonstrate here because this is all wired, but we also added the thing on browsers that support it. You can lift it up and kind of tilt it, and then it would use accelerometer, not unlike what I did with the Power Glove before, to get it running. It was so new that we actually had like 3 different code paths depending if you're running Mozilla or Chrome or iOS devices, because they all report very different numbers, which was really, really interesting. But what it allowed us to discover, get some really nice feedback like this. People didn't realize they have accelerometer. It was great, right? It's like we're at that point in time where like people find it out in their browsers that they have new hardware or something like that.
And it was also probably the largest deployment of CSS3 on any single project ever on the web.
Yeah, so this was really, really exciting for us because we could, and that's what we're trying to do. We have new ideas for other things that are in HTML5 that are really, really experimental. But I guess stay tuned.
Yeah.
I think this is the, yeah.
Great. Oh, there we go. All right, Team Miss Pac-Man, hurting over there.
Should we do one more in Q&A?
One more. Do we have a finale?
Yeah, we have to.
Do you guys want to go for finale?
All
right. I think we bring Chad up. I think what we have to do is bring Chad up.
So what's happening in the finale, we need one person from, it's very kind of by coincidence worth 1,819 points.
Wow.
And we need
somebody. Wow, that really works out.
Seriously, just very, 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 very weird that it happened.
Chad, Morgan, you guys did a great job standing up. First of all, round of applause no matter what happens.
Yeah.
You earned your hat. Sir, please come to the stage. You're going to play for your team and for the grand prize of honor, because we don't really have any more prizes.
So it's actually incredibly simple. You have to survive 15 seconds
to the
of
keyboard,
Pac-Man.
friend.
Anybody can do that, right? So, yeah, you guys are ready for like applause, giving some, okay? 15 seconds,
All
arrow
right.
keys. All right, let's make it happen.
One small twist. It's first player Pac-Man.
Yeah.
We're good. 15 seconds is all you need.
Yeah, let's give it up. Come on.
All right,
Go,
10,
go.
9, 8, 7, 6.
Go, 5, 4, 3.
There's also no energizers. Oh, my God. Congratulations.
Nice.
Great job.
Nice. All right.
There it is. Wow.
Sweet.
So close, so close. And Team Miss Pac-Man again, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Wow.
We have about 10 minutes for Q&A if anybody wants to ask us questions.
Yeah.
We have
There's
mics.
mics on either side. Come on.
Yeah. Sorry?
Google's always hiring.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
Are you hiring?
I'm hiring.
Yeah.
I mean, depends on the work, I guess.
We're definitely hiring for I'm on the user experience team. We're definitely hiring. So
Doodle team is hiring as well. If you guys are illustrators, or even we have a headcount for a Doodle engineer. So this stuff sounds fun to you. Let me know.
And this is kind of what I do. Like, this is my work, right here, what I do. The presentation stuff, not all of it, of course, but it's a lot of fun. Yes, sir.
Yeah, did you guys do any analytics on how many collective person hours were consumed by the Pac-Man doodle?
We don't have any numbers to share, but there was an outside company that estimated, I think, 4.8 million man-hours spent on the Google Pac-Man doodle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Rome wasn't built in a day, and it definitely wasn't built on Friday, May 21st, 2010.
Yes, sir.
All right, I have two questions for you. One is, why didn't you look at the code when you were doing your Pac-Man doodle? I know it's kind of cheating and all that, but I find it interesting. And the other question is, it's more a reflection than a question, but I love the doodles, and I don't see them much anymore because Chrome has the Omni bar, so you never go to the home page unless somebody tells you there's a great doodle today. So how do we solve this? How do I get Google Doodles back in my life?
You do two ways. We'll answer your questions in reverse. One, you set Google to your homepage. And two, in the search results of every doodle, the logo changes as well. So if you click on that logo, it'll take you back to the homepage, and you can have the full immersive experience. And stay tuned for other features we're working on where those might be more visible to you.
Yeah, we're doing some experimentation with
All right,
that.
and then the code. Why weren't you able to just use the code?
So there's a couple of things. One was that like Namco, they were incredibly supportive and they gave us a lot of feedback on the thing, but they're kind of guarding the code. You know, it's their secret sauce. But also, like, I programmed in assembly like many years ago, and I don't really, I couldn't read it. But the thing is that what was amazing, there are a number of people on the internet that essentially reverse engineered like 80% of Pac-Man. There are like websites like the Pac-Man dossier where they like show you all the numbers and all the techniques. So it was easy to just look at them and and try to figure it together and recreate it in JavaScript, which we wanted to do because it felt like a proper tribute, right? It wouldn't be a tribute where we just emulated it. We wanted to do it using technologies that we believe in.
I think it's similar in the way we did the Rube Goldberg doodle. Like Marcin basically built this entire contraption of CSS3 and Canvas and JavaScript to create the sprite, and it was almost like a mousetrap or something itself. Or we did a Charlie Chaplin video, and we did it. We shot actual video in Niles just across the Dumbarton Bridge, and we did it. We released it as a YouTube video because we thought that was the most fitting tribute.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I actually used to work on the calendar team, and one thing we had way back then for a short period of time was a calendar that actually showed the doodle every day. And I was wondering, actually kind of to Josh's point, I started it because I didn't see the doodle as much anymore.
Sure.
Is there any chance that could come back?
There's definitely a chance. That's a great idea. Yeah, and like Marcin said, there's a lot of exploration and ideas around how to bring those up because we're very flattered that people enjoy them, and we'll certainly keep making them as long as people are interested to see them.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I love calendar, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
I was just wondering how many hours and how many people worked on the Pac-Man doodle.
We actually had all of these questions that you're asking as part of the presentation, but we just ran out of time.
Oh, it's in there. So I know, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it sucks that you guys had to stop. We should just go on through the I/O again.
Let's go drinking and we'll play the whole game.
Should we try to find this question?
Sure. Well, I mean, but your answer on both fronts is kind of a lot. But it wasn't really tallied in terms of man hours. It's basically is a little crazy and just does whatever it takes to get it done, which is awesome to work with somebody like that. It's actually something I have to take great responsibility for because if I suggest something that would maybe improve it, like he's compulsively will do it. So I'm careful with my suggestions. But the question here is, Yeah, we didn't. This is another trick one in the sense we didn't really tally. It was a labor of love, and I mean, I had to fly to Japan to negotiate rights to work with Namco. I mean, do I get to tally the hours where I spent watching Beowulf on the flight? I don't know. I certainly would like those hours back in some way, but yeah. And in terms of collaborators, I mean, Marcin can tell us like a lot of people helped.
Yeah. This is the progress that we had after 1 hour. So not very exciting. This was actually still when it was a vector game, because I didn't know any better. I had to rewrite it 2 times after that. One when I set floating to integer, and one when I went from vector to actual bitmap. So it's one thing. This is
the version I made on my trackpad in about 15 minutes when Marcin said, "Okay, I'll do it. Just give me a damn mock-up." And
Sorry.
he said it in the friendliest way. With the Polish accent, it just comes across as a regular speaking voice. Yeah.
Oh, you just drew it yourself by hand?
Oh, I made it on like my trackpad in Adobe in Illustrator.
Yeah. And I just made this quick mock, and actual like the Ghost and Pac-Man actually like rounded corner diffs. They're not even graphics,
But yeah, this was enough for us to kind of share with Namco and share with our internal stakeholders to get a green light to make it happen.
Yeah, and this was still the same day. So
It was actually also his birthday, which I forgot. It's a touchy subject.
yeah. Oh, this is actually the page that I talked about. This guy, Jamie Pittman, who just put together all of these things about Pac-Man, including I'm going kind of fast, but numbers, algorithms, and stuff like this. Essentially, like 80% of the game's right here, and we got a lot of feedback from Namco, and I just played the game a lot as well, and I had this like running tally of this. We got some cool feedback. Some people thought we actually emulated it, which I was very happy, right? Of course, there were other people who thought the exact opposite.
Yeah. Stings, still stings.
Yeah.
Yeah. We sympathize with the Atari Pac-Man people.
Worse than the Atari one?
Yeah. Yeah, I like this one. But, with a lot of volume, and we got really a lot of feedback. It was really very flattering and very touching.
Yeah.
There's always, a huge variety of tweets or comments you're going to get. Okay, who's on first?
You were standing the longest, sir. Why don't you give us your question?
So my question is actually, the Google Doodles, they serve as really great technology demos for doing things without Flash and for a while without HTML5 or CSS3. But when you go to view source on that, of course, all the Google stuff is completely packed and you can't see any of that. Do you guys have any plans to show off any of your source code as technology demos?
That's a great idea. So for the UI experiments that Marcin showed for Jules Verne, he actually posted on your blog pretty robust examples of how we did that. And I think the code there is not packed.
This is your chance to look at the Pac-Man code. We'll scroll it really quickly. Unfortunately, we can't share this one because part of it belongs to Namco.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a little bit tricky. But we do have,
we can show you the code behind our first interactive doodle.
Oh.
The Crusher.
Well, the algorithms that govern the way that that the game behaves, right? They didn't.
They gave us their blessing to emulate it.
Yeah.
Right. It was a partnership. They let us use it, though.
Yeah. This was, as Ryan mentioned, this was the first interactive doodle. It was actually, when was it? 2000?
2010, January.
Yeah. It was back when we actually, somebody did it by hand.
Yeah, Chris Hom, another doodle engineer, actually wrote it all by hand.
Yeah, but of course now we have JS optimizers and compilers that, this is Pac-Man code again, just in a way, we don't really do it as much to obfuscate the code, but to make sure, the compiler also does a number of checks, and of course the code is more compact, so the latency is lower, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and you can and you can imagine with hundreds of millions of views of this stuff, latency becomes an issue.
But I've been trying to convince these guys to have a proper blog where they could share some of the techniques and hopefully.
Yeah, would you guys read it? If we had a blog, would that be interesting? Good to know. Because I need a place to talk about my feelings. Twitter just doesn't.
Can I have like the Power Glove picture on top of the masthead?
Sure.
Like in Facebook? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question. I came in late for the talk, but I love the way that the users can all interact with the actual presentation.
Yeah.
So is that, I saw you used AppSpot. How does that work? Did you explain that in the beginning, or?
We explained that it probably wouldn't work in the beginning, but then it kind of did.
So I'm actually so for this guy I'm using WebSockets, right, and Node.js, and it's very exciting because it's very fast. For this guy, it was just polling essentially. So every time you use your device, every 2 seconds it asks, should I display a question or not? And this guy every 1 second asks the server, what's the tally on the answers, etc., etc. It's not even like a hanging get or anything. It's just like regular gets. So predominantly because I'm like super lazy and it worked. There's something really exciting about in App Engine now called Channel API, and I would hope to rewrite it using that maybe for next time. Does this answer the question?
Yeah,
I don't know how technical
it does.
should I get.
And so your whole presentation is an app unto itself as well.
It's an HTML5 website.
Yeah.
It's like a huge website. You could actually, I know some of you maybe not noticed it, but it was kind of started running kind of slow
Choppy,
after
yeah.
like 50 minutes. So I had to refresh it quietly. So it's, so it's still a little bit tricky, but it's kind of cutting edgy, if you will.
Is there source code for part of it?
I kind of want to expose some of it. Again, like a lot of what we have there is, kind of proprietary, like the Atari and Namco pictures and whatnot.
But maybe even just the framework of what you use to create this. So we could, because I'd love to use this for my own presentations or things.
Cool.
It'd be a really cool way to do it.
Yeah. We're also dabbling with HTML5 slide decks. Like some other I/O presentations use HTML5 slides that I help put together, and so
that's
yeah, you can
at html5rocks.com.
Yeah. So feel free to like ping me. We used to have a.
Yeah.
We should pull up the
final slide.
Final slide. Now it's worth 10 points. Okay. Yeah. Feel free to like ping me to remind me, because one of the great things about working at Google is that like, there's always so many cool things to do that I always behind on.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Cool. Anybody else? Like one.
We're
It's
actually 2 minutes
counting
over.
backwards, so we already.
But we're the last talk, I think. So unless they're going to throw us out, all right. We got one more encore. Freebird.
Wait. Do you guys want to do other ones? Wow. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna tell you a secret, and you might hate me for it, but the order of the questions was rigged. So every first question in a given category was the same because we wanted a cool one to be first. So it was worth 200 or 1600, depending. It doesn't matter.
Basically, everything about the game is rigged. Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta do what you gotta do.
We have
we
many
have
questions.
many.
Yeah.
Just some of them are just kind of lame. Okay, so you saw this guy, right? Okay, what do you want to do? Which one?
Call it out. Team choice.
Technology. So we did this one. So no matter what order I do, I have to go through them. Okay. All right.
This is a good one.
This is a tricky one. I don't know if you can still vote. You probably might have to refresh your client if you can connect. Was it Internet Explorer or was it Google Chrome?
This might seem self-serving.
There might be more browsers. I keep hearing about it, but I don't know. No, I'm joking. I don't know if you can vote, but what do you think?
Someone voted for Chrome. Hey, why did one go away?
Someone
you can
switched
change
their
the vote. So yeah, I don't know if voting works. It's actually a trick question in that it's kind of both, in a very different way. So there's some like old Internet Explorer bug that the background position when you have to do like exec command, whatever. I know how many of you know it. So I kind of have to for some older IE, I had to use not even use CSS, but like I invented this other technique that you just put an image and you crop it using a div on top of it. So that was just required from IE. But for Chrome, for example, when we did Jules Verne Doodle, right, we had this thing where you could lift it up and kind of move it around to use accelerometer, right? which was great. Many people got quite a kick out of it. But the thing is that it was just reverse engineered by us on Chrome team. So we literally had this situation where my friend Chris and I, we got our identical MacBook Pros in the air. We turned left, and his doodle went left, and my doodle went right. And I had no idea why. And it turned out his model of MacBook had a little bit different chip to do the gyroscope or whatever. And we actually gave feedback to the Chrome team, to the engineers, and they fixed it for us in actual Chrome. So in both cases, it's kind of funny because your book ended by kind of old technology and new technology, and they both cause trouble, right? It's easier sometimes for old technology because you're used to it giving trouble, but still, it's funny. Do we have anything else here? Yeah. Oh, here's an example of, for example, how Google Vern Doodle breaks down. So this is the optimal CSS3 experience, right, where it rotates around. You can see the dials on the left kind of rotating, right? Again, just CSS3. This is how it kind of looks on the other browser, right? It just moves around. The alpha channel is a little bit different.
There's no alpha. There's just like a bitmap.
There's no transitions between frames, so it's a little bit more, choppy. And the bottom one is just a static image for those browsers or users that don't use JS. But it's another thing that we want to do, right? You want to talk about it a little bit?
Well, that's a question we always ask ourselves is like, we want to just surprise and delight users. Like that's sort of our mantra at the Doodle team. And we always ask ourselves, like, how many, if we try to do cutting edge, like so far, like, if we use Canvas, we're cutting out like X number of users. If we use WebGL, we're cutting out X number of users. So we're always trying to push the edge and push ourselves further, but it's also a judgment call for what we want to do. And I think one thing I like about the way that our engineers work is that we don't filter out browsers, we filter out features. So we ping your browser and see, like, okay, if you're using IE6, do CSS3 transitions work? We don't look at the browser type, we just see, is that capability there? And I think that's cool, because it's like hopeful that maybe one day IE6 will use CSS3. You never know. But that would be future-proof in the sense that it would work at a future date.
Yeah, so it's one example that we just detect the feature and we try to do the best. And we know that translate 3D, even though it's not 3D, it's sometimes hardware accelerated. So we try to do that first. Yeah, if it doesn't work, we do regular CSS transforms. If it doesn't work, we just move the object the old-fashioned way.
And we really are like technology agnostic. It's just about what the best solution is for the problem at hand. So we did a doodle. We did a doodle for Robert Bunsen in March, which used, it was subtle, but it used Canvas. So if your browser didn't use Canvas, we just showed you a static doodle. And we've made decisions where we've dumbed down things because we wanted to see if we could make it work all the way back to IE6. Like Pac-Man is an example where we didn't do some things we maybe were able to do in CSS3 or HTML5 because we wanted as many people to play it as possible.
Yeah, this is another example. We had this little particle doodle that led up to Google Instant when it launched a while back. And the original implementation kind of on the left wasn't fast enough in some of the browsers, right? Some of the older browsers. And we actually had Chris Holm just reach out to every...
Yeah, he basically sent an email to a list like, he had help me. So we have mailing lists at Google for Eng stuff, and we have a lot of interesting people who said, help me write a program that says, how can I spell the Google logo in the minimum amount of balls? And
yeah.
And it came back like this.
Yeah. And some people got really excited because it's essentially like an algorithm math kind of question, right? So we get a lot of help from people who are much smarter than we are, I guess. Okay, anything else? We can do like one more maybe, right? Something?
Yeah.
Technology?
Could I ask you a doodle question?
Yeah, sure.
You had a doodle a while back that had a number of words bounded within the word Google.
The anniversary of JFK's famous.
Yeah, exactly. Was that hand drawn or was that?
Yeah, that was very low tech. Yeah, that was just like Mike Dutton doing the Lord's work and plotting those images to get a visual.
Yeah. And I think that's a little bit of a choice we have to make as well. We don't. Some people are voting. This is fine. It's easy to get on this like slippery slopes. Like everything's gonna have to be interactive now and animated and crazy and exploding and like I kid you not, my internal title at Google is the Michael Bay of Doodles.
That's true.
Which is like half kind of
flattering,
complimentary and half kind of derogatory because like I don't want to be the Michael Bay of Doodles. I don't want like every doodle to be crazy, right?
Who do you said you had somebody you wanted to be? You wanted to be the Leonardo DiCaprio of Doodles? Was that?
I actually like Michael Bay.
Dexter of Doodles?
The J-Lo of, okay, so, oh, this is kind of fun. Okay, which of these Pac-Man Doodle features were the first? So Pac-Man, some of the things that we did were the first for Doodle. So remember, this was a year ago. So a Doodle with sound, a Doodle that ran for 48 hours, an interactive Doodle, an animated Doodle, or a Doodle using Flash. So which one of those we did for the first time with Pac-Man Doodle? Yeah.
So the answer is actually, it actually is 1, 2, and 5. Yeah. Always cheating. So this is actually our first interactive Doodle, and this was something I did in 2009 for Halloween, because we'd done it. We looked back at all the Doodles we've done for Halloween. We've done Halloween every year since 1999, and it was like, what have we not done yet? We've done like costumes and ghosts and scary stuff, but I was like, candy is the best part of Halloween. That's how I felt. So the way it works is, I was like, okay, for those that are curious, you'll just get a simple piece of candy on the homepage, and then it'll entice you to click. And then, very simple. It'll swap on an image for the whole. We didn't use an algorithm for this. We would then have candy appear in the shape of the logo. Clicking again just made a big candy mess. And for the curious, clicking final time, which was like the hangover of when you just ate so much candy. And so it's another type of way to have a connection with the users. It's a little cute story arc of the process of Halloween candy overconsumption.
You click again, you have like antacids or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a quickie question?
Oh, sure.
Please.
So, I mean, the original Google homepage, right, was supposed to be this super quick, nothing's on the page but the Google logo.
Right.
So how has this, I mean, as this is getting more and more intricate, you've got the whole video, how does, I guess, Google or your bosses or whoever respond to the fact that you've got now YouTube videos, you've got all of this Pac-Man. Surely this is not the simple plain web page that the original. I don't know. I was reading blog posts about this, so this isn't really my question. But
sure.
Do you know what my question is though?
Gotcha. Journalism. Yes. Cool. Yeah. So a couple of things. One, here's a factoid for you guys. The first Doodle appeared on Google.com before Google was incorporated. So September 4th, 1998, Google became a company officially in the eyes of the law. And in August 30th, 1998, there was the first Doodle Burning Man logo appeared on Google.com when Larry and Sergey went to Burning Man. And so we do have high-level support to do fun stuff on the homepage. And that said, we care a lot about users seeing stuff really fast. And you'll notice if you look into any of the Doodles that we do, like the Chaplin video or Pac-Man, that are more resource intensive or require something to download in the background or whatever, we always show a static image first. So the Chaplin Doodle, for instance, was a slide play on the YouTube player where the mustache was the shape of a play button was in the shape of a mustache. There's actually a static image that clicked through to the video, then loaded later. Or if you look at the Doodle that appears now in Tonga and other parts of the world as time rolls on, we show first a static image that will then swap in with a much larger sprite that cycles through.
Yeah, we have. So there's obviously part of it is user experience, right? But yeah, we have very specific rules about I think we have 300K. We can't exceed on initial page load, right? 300K.
But even then, we always try to. We work very closely with our team that serves the homepage, and it's a pretty complicated and sophisticated structure to serve that many pages. So there's a lot of security checks and that kind of stuff. And we take fun, very seriously. And they are very clear, and we totally agree with them that we want to get pixels to the page as soon as possible. So we don't want you share a page to look broken, but then we can load all kind of fun stuff once the user shows their intention that they want to play.
And we did actually on a couple of occasions had to pull the Doodle because we realized it's not fast enough or it's consuming power or whatever.
Right. So we definitely we listen to users. So for instance, Google Pac-Man played on autoplay with sound after 10 seconds in the initial launch, and it was probably hilarious in some meetings, where people were not really paying attention and Google Pac-Man started playing. But users also didn't like that was happening, and for example. And so, within, in that span of the first day, we actually relaunched it quietly where sound wouldn't autoplay if you didn't implicitly say, click and say play the doodle.
Okay, should we wrap it up? 15 minutes over time. Okay.
I think we're good. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for coming.